Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be discussing a couple of my picks for this holiday season. As I had mentioned in a previous video, I do have two collections and I'm always trying to curate each collection to contain within them the fragrances that I feel perform the best in each particular environment. So this holiday season, I'm going to be spending my time here in Northern California. So I try to pick a couple of fragrances that I think will suit this climate the best. So without further ado, let us get started. The first fragrance I have here may be something of an obvious pick, and I think it suits the story behind the fragrance as well as the fragrance itself in this climate that we have here, which is a little bit mild, a little bit foggy and damp, and that is Noelle Obalcon from Etat Libre. The nose behind this fragrance is Antoine Maison Dieu, and the story is kind of Christmas on the balcony, as the name suggests. And this fragrance is, to my nose, primarily like an orange blossom fragrance. And I am not the biggest fan of orange blossom at all. Normally, she and I do not get along. But there's something about this blended with some more mild spices, and there's honey in the top, and there's just a sense of it feeling really as exactly as the name suggests. It's like a humid, creamy, Christmassy, very evocative type of fragrance. Yeah, there's mandarin orange in the top and it gives a bright citrus feel. And definitely, immediately, you get that humidity from the honey note. It's a thick, syrupy, but not terribly sweet, which I appreciate. The middle here has more of the spices, so there's cinnamon and chili pepper, I believe. So it gives a little tinge of heat, which adds to the outside warmth. If you've ever spent an unseasonably warm Thanksgiving or Christmas and the smell of the spices baking in the oven, mixed with like having the windows open and feeling the heat from the kitchen and the warmth from the spices, contributing to a festive environment, but you're also like a little bit sweaty. In the base, you have some of that vanilla and patchouli, and that musky patchouliness adds to that sensuality that gives it a little bit of like a body heat kind of evocation. I really, really like this one. The florals aren't too obvious, and overall I feel like it's blended so well that it really creates an atmosphere versus feeling like you're wearing a fragrance. So that is the first one, a little bit maybe obvious, but really, really great choice that I recommend checking out if you like spicy, semi-sweet fragrance. This next one is an ultimate gourmand fragrance. It is a sweet, syrupy, delicious, want to eat yourself kind of fragrance, and that is Unknown Pleasures by Kerosene. And this is a lemon cookie, waffle cone, cold air, and caramelly tonka bean, vanilla, sticky kind of fragrance. There's an Earl Grey note in there. It's supposed to represent walking in the winter with your Earl Grey tea and a cookie, I think, something along those lines. I don't really get that tea note, to be honest. But this lemon at the top is so bright. I think it's a very realistic lemon. I know that some people say that it has a kind of a lemon cleaner kind of smell. I don't get that at all. I find it very naturalistic and realistic lemon. And I feel like, interestingly enough, that the lemon part really does last on me the duration of the fragrance. For a citrus fragrance, I think it does stand up through the length of the wear. There's some bergamot that comes out as it begins to evolve and dry down. And then I would say around the 15-20 minute mark is when you really get that caramel waffle cone walking past an ice cream shop in the winter with the baking smells that starts to really, really develop. It is very, very sweet, but I don't find it cloying, which I think is worth mentioning. I think this would layer well with other fragrances that are too dark and intense to sweeten it up, add some creamy interest. I really love to put this on after a bath when my skin is still warm and cuddle up in a big fluffy robe and have my tea and read a book. It's that kind of fragrance to me. This is for nights in, watching a movie, cuddling on the couch in your PJs and like your footy pajamas, really, and having your holiday time sweets and eggnog. This fragrance really, really complements those kinds of activities. So that is Unknown Pleasures by Kerosene. This next fragrance is a classic and it holds a lot of scent memories for me from my childhood, even though I can't really pinpoint it back to this fragrance in particular. As a child growing up in the 80s, it really smells like going to holiday parties with my parents and smelling this genre of fragrance. And that is Coco Eau de Parfum by Chanel. This is a really opulent, sparkling, deep fragrance. It is going to get you noticed. It is spicy. It is ever so slightly gourmand leaning because of the fruity notes in here. I think there's peach and cloves give it that mulled wine kind of evocation. In the base, there's amber and sandalwood and vanilla and civet, which adds a little bit of animalic opulence to it, almost as if you've been wearing a fur coat and that fur coat has that animalic sort of smell, not in a bad way at all. It just feels very, very fancy and opulent. But this really has that sparkling Chanel DNA that gives it a fun holiday party kind of vibe. It is a boss fragrance, but it also has that extroverted side. It's definitely a very serious fragrance, but at the same time, it exhibits this unexpected side, like an unpredictable person. Maybe a person who is normally very buttoned up and austere, but after a cocktail or two, they allow their extroverted, fun, playful side to show through. If I had to attribute this to an astrological sign, I would say this is the epitome of a Capricorn. I think it performs beautifully in the kind of foggy, cold humidity that we have here in Northern California, and it performs beautifully. I think the theme running through these picks I have actually is that these fragrances all exhibit a degree of humidity, if that makes sense. Maybe that's why I'm leaning towards them a lot. It's beautiful. That is Coco Eau de Parfum by Chanel. Last one we're going to talk about is on my full bottle list. I only have a decant of it and I absolutely fell in love. I love a lot of fragrances from this house and I'm looking forward to exploring more. Anyway, this is Rima 11 from Karner Barcelona. I should take this opportunity to mention a little thing that may be a little controversial in this fragrance community that we're in, but I am a little bit of an undersprayer. I tend to wear fragrances for myself because I'm really paranoid that I'm going to choke people out. I do have a very sensitive nose myself, so I'm very sensitive to when others overspray their fragrances. And I'm terrified that I'm going to be that guy. And so I tend to underspray. So I have been trying to move more toward decants and samples because I'm an undersprayer. I know that I'm never going to get through, obviously, all the bottles that I have, let alone all of the bottles that are on my wish list. But anyway, I had expected that I would just go with the decant of this, but I have fallen in love. This is a gorgeous cardamom, spicy, cinnamon, woody fragrance. It's slightly reminiscent to me of Dries Van Noten from Frederick Malle, which is another one of my favorite fragrances. And I unfortunately was not able to secure a bottle before it was brutally discontinued. But this has that same feeling to me. It is that woody spiciness, ambery, benzoin in the base, ever so slightly creamy, very, very unisex. It's just so smooth to me. It has cardamom in the top, and I am a sucker for cardamom fragrances. I'm gonna spray it on. There's black pepper and saffron and mint in the top as well. And it gives it a really fresh opening. It feels really zesty and energizing at the top. The mint doesn't really give it a coolness, it just gives it a little bit of zesty excitement. After a couple of minutes, the spices really start to come out, and there's cinnamon and nutmeg, coriander. It's that kitchen spices, spice market kind of feel. And when that blends with the amber and the sandalwood, it gives it just a really enveloping kind of spicy richness. And it's very, very sexy. The cedar and the musk in the base really start to come out and blend with the vanilla, but it's those spices that really make me feel like it's a holiday kind of fragrance. This one's definitely a little more sophisticated and serious than the other fragrances we've discussed. So to me, it feels like perhaps it's a more fancy event kind of fragrance. I would wear this to a more formal cocktail party or going out for drinks somewhere more upscale. This is a blazer and pantsuit kind of fragrance to me. Maybe even a New Year's Eve kind of vibe. It's not austere, but it's serious. In the deeper dry down, it starts to become really interesting because it becomes this ethereal cloud. It's sort of unknowable in that stage. It creates a really interesting aura around you. If you want to feel a bit of intrigue, if you want to feel a little bit mysterious and very sensual and sexy, but a little bit aloof, inviting someone to come in and extract you from your shell. It's that invitation in Rima 11. This is at the top of my full bottle list currently, even though I'm trying not to buy full bottles. Rima 11 from Karner Barcelona. So that's it for now. That is my very miniature list of the fragrances that I think I will probably be reaching for a lot in the coming weeks. Let me know down below what you have been reaching for, what you have set aside for your holidays. If you have tried any of these fragrances, if you like them, if you hate them, let me know. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.